Hello. Thank you so much, everybody. Wanted to make sure it was on. I'm David Newby, music director of the Tehachapi Symphony, adjusting the microphone. And welcome to our concert today with soloist Jack Cimo. Pleased to be here. Just a few announcements. Welcome also to our Facebook fans who are watching us online at this moment. By the way, if you enjoyed today's concert, it will be up online for a while. So please visit our Facebook page. Check us out. And even when you're watching it later, if you do, you can always leave a little comment. Those are fun to read. Would you take a second and turn off your cell phones and put those away? The great 21st century ritual we observe. I want to thank a few people. I want to recognize Country Oaks Baptist Church, our longtime hosts thank you. And our wonderful technician and setup person, Anthony Ursua, and his great staff that help us so well. Tehachapi Symphony Orchestra puts on its concerts for free thanks to the hard work of the board of directors. So let's just take a second and recognize them. Board, would you stand and be recognized? And we're very grateful to our donors. So would you take a second and just look at your program at the TSO Donors 2023-2024. Be sure and find your own name on there. And if it's not, let's see if we can get that on there for the next concert. You can be our friend for as little as $25. That's right. It's the cheapest friendship you'll ever find. And it goes all the way up to, actually, look at this. It goes to the K Club. That's where I'm sitting, at the K Club. I have to think about that next level above that, the conductor circle. It's wide open, folks. The conductor circle is wide open. And there's a couple up there, and the program sponsor, 5,000 plus. We appreciate every single donation. From $25 on up. It's all tax deductible, and it all helps your hometown orchestra produce its free concerts during the year. We do have expenses. They're not free to produce, and your donation helps us with that. Many thanks to all the donors. I want to recognize a few people here. We lost a couple of players, not totally, but they are not with us on this program, and they're in the audience. So Gail Pitchford, Jim Peck, Wayne Thompson, would you stand and be recognized? And Ellen, would you stand as well? Ellen Hayes is here. Ellen, stand, Ellen. I didn't see Elizabeth Futrell. Is Elizabeth here somewhere? We'll clap for her too, even though she's not. So thank you all. So Gail took a little hiatus for this concert, and we're really pleased that Larry Zonderlein is filling in for concertmaster. Larry, you want to just stand and say hello? And I think I'm almost done with the introductions, except one really important thing. I believe that we're going to be recognized by the City Council, and to recognize us is City Councilwoman Susan Wiggins. So come on up. Are you going to join us?
Put it down for the short people. I just want to tell all of you. I dropped the mic. I'm done. I wanted to tell you what an honor and a privilege it is to be able to stand before you today and recognize you by the City of Tehachapi for 25 years of classical music in our Tehachapi Valley. We want to thank you for offering all these concerts for free. What could be better? And look, no one can say that no one really likes classical music in Tehachapi. Look at this, it's everywhere. And we appreciate your dedication to classical music and its presentation to your community, and we expect you here for 25 more years. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. On behalf of the orchestra, it's really great to be honored by the city. We are all so connected to the city. May I do one more thing, just a little demonstration here. 25 years ago, a few musicians started this orchestra, and I know at least one or two of them are here today. So if you were the first crew, part of that first orchestra, would you stand up, please, and let us honor you for your hard work? So in particular, I want to acknowledge Gail Pitchford. She is the president of the board and always has been and is the concert master. So just appreciate this for a second if you want to talk about separation of powers and division of labor. She is my boss and hires me until we get to rehearsal and performance, then I get to be her boss. So, and it's worked out really well for 25 years. I give Gail 100% of the credit for that. So thank you so much, Gail. Well, all right, we're starting with a great overture. It's by Beethoven. It's called Fidelio. So Beethoven lived at the end of the 18th, beginning of the 19th century. And I chose on Beethoven for this because Alicia and I were in Vienna this summer and got to spend time at a couple of houses where Beethoven lived and a couple of places where Mozart lived. And it really just, boy, oh boy, I'll tell you, I was not prepared for how inspiring that would be. So Beethoven, you probably know, one of the most important things about his life is that he went deaf during his lifetime. And by the time he got to the end of his life, he was totally deaf. And it may be a little bit difficult to appreciate the effect that would have on a composer in his day, because nowadays we have so many technological aids to help that. But Beethoven really thought about ending his life and thought to try to present himself as a musician who couldn't hear almost made him feel like he was a fraud. So he really struggled with that. And we went to one of his houses where he wrote this incredible letter to his brothers that was intended to be read after his death, which at that moment could have happened any day. But it was just very inspiring. And Beethoven's music is usually divided in 3 time periods. And this piece you're going to listen to comes from the middle. It's often called his heroic period, and it's exactly when he was struggling with that deafness, and he was really interested in heroic themes. And it's interesting, it tells us something about Beethoven, that his only opera has a woman as the hero. Fidelio is actually the name taken by Leonora. She is the central character. And her husband, Florestan, is a political prisoner being held illegitimately. And Leonora, whose pseudonym is Fidelio, dresses up like a man to get into this prison, presumably a men's prison, and rescue him. It's sometimes, the opera is sometimes called a rescue opera. It took Beethoven 10 years to write this. He said it was the hardest thing he ever did, and he would never try to write another one. And interestingly, the thing that begins the opera, you come into the opera theater, you're going to see Fidelio by Beethoven, the curtain is down, and you hear this introductory music. You all know that. It's called an overture. It sets the mood for the opera. Well, Beethoven, during this 10 years of writing the opera, couldn't make up his mind about the overture. He wrote one, and he decided he wasn't good enough for the opera, so he wrote a second one. And then he wrote a third one. And then he wrote the fourth one, and that's the one, the fourth and final version of this opera overture is the one that's come to be the official overture. It's the shortest, interestingly enough. So that's it. So imagine that you're hearing a drama about false imprisonment. You hear 4 quick measures that sounds like maybe the excitement of trying to break into a prison. and then this long, slow wait. And I think that's Beethoven sort of alternating those two realities of hurry up and you're in this cell by yourself for years. So, and then of course, like Beethoven, it's got to have a triumphant ending. So hope you enjoyed, everybody. Beethoven's overture to his opera Fidelio. Can we have one more round of applause for our soloist, Jack Cimo? He's out here somewhere. So Jack's brother Connor is here with him. He's out in the lobby selling compact discs. Do you all remember compact discs? Someplace between LPs and MP3s in the historical expanse of sound recording. But you can also go to his website, and as soon as the concert's over and you turn your cell phones on again, you could plug in jackcimo.com. He's got his own website with media up there. Wonderful to work with him. A real honor. All right, and it's an honor to be performing music of Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. So, if you know anything about Mozart, you probably know he was one of the great geniuses in all fields of human endeavor. His father was a musician in the court of Salzburg. Alicia and I had occasion to visit Salzburg and Vienna. We went to two houses that had been lived in by Mozart, and went to his birthplace and someplace that he lived when he was about 17 years old. Went to his graveyard, it was a great thing to do. Mozart, if you know anything about his death, he had a kind of a mysterious death, and to this day, nobody is exactly sure where Mozart is buried. There is a plot of land that's about half the size of the sanctuary, and someplace in there is Mozart's grave, and there's a marker there. And there's a story there. And if you'd like to hear the story, come to the Antelope Valley Symphony Orchestra concert. On November 18th, we'll be performing Mozart's final piece, his Requiem. Love to see you there. But tonight, we're going to do a symphony, and it's one of his most jolly symphonies. Of the last few symphonies he wrote, it's a little on the short side. And here's the story. Mozart became a world-famous celebrity at the age of 6. He and his father and his sister went out on a series of tours. I think altogether between ages 6 and 16, Mozart went on 4 different tours. And some of these tours lasted over a year because these were horse and buggy days. And nowadays, to get from Salzburg, where Mozart was born, and Vienna, which was one of the great music capitals of Western Europe, it's about, I think it's about a 2.5-hour drive by car. It took a few days back in Mozart's life. So to go to Vienna, to go to Mannheim, to go to, I don't know, Berlin, to go to Italy, to go into France, to all these different places where Mozart went. Took a long time. And it took introductions. You'd have to kind of, get letters of introductions to go and visit these aristocratic courts of kings, queens, princes, dukes, and you'd have to get entrees to them. And one of the ways that Mozart got his tour started was with the mayor of Salzburg, whose name was Hofner. And Herr Hofner helped the Mozarts go on their first tour when Mozart was 6 years old. So they played a very big part in Mozart's beginning of his career. So later on, just as Mozart moved to Vienna for the last 10 years of his life, at the ripe old age of 26, when he moved to Vienna, he got a request from his father to write a symphony for the ennobling of Mayor Hofner's son. Mayor Hofner's son was being elevated in his aristocratic status. So Mozart's father said, please write this symphony. Mozart had to adapt something he already wrote. Mozart was a very fast composer. He composed all the time. By all accounts, he kind of had a photographic memory, and he would construct an entire composition in his mind and then write it down with very little editing. And despite the fact that he was a quick composer, his father, at one point, after his father had already asked him to begin the project, wrote him a letter kind of saying gently, hurry up. And Mozart, he was always doing more than one thing at a time. He was doing some other music. He had just moved to Vienna. He was getting ready to get married. And he wrote back and he said that he was he was unable to write trivial scribblings. He had to have time to get his music done. Well, what you're about to hear is the result of non-trivial scribblings. His Symphony Number 35 in D major, which is subtitled the Hofner Symphony in honor of the Hofner family. It's got 4 sections called movements. Mozart said the first movement should be played with fire, and the last movement should be played as quickly as possible. The operative word is possible, right? So we're going to play it as quickly as we feel like it. But the first movement is in what's called sonata allegro form. So you think about a drama. You've got a main character, a main theme. You've got a secondary character and a conflict. In music, the conflict is a change of key. Try to spot the change of key. I've got one of my music theory students over there today. It's called a modulation. They're hard to hear because composers want to disguise it. And then there's a middle section where there's a development and the themes are kind of jumbled up a little bit. Mozart's development section is very short. That could have been the result of a lack of time. You never know. But it's a very short little development. And then it sounds like the piece starts over and it plays out, and that's the first movement. Second movement is this delightful little slow movement. It's very light and playful, one of Mozart's most playful movements. The third movement is a minuet. Raise your hand if you know what a minuet is. What is it? It's a dance, and it's in 3/4 meter. It goes 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. You know, kind of like a little bit of a slow waltz maybe, or something like that. So there are 3 sections, a minuet, a trio, then we repeat the minuet. And then the last movement is a rondo, where you have this main theme that keeps coming back with alternating themes. Very lighthearted, and we'll play it as fast as possible. Hope you enjoy it. Symphony Number 35 by Mozart.
gonna say hello to Wayne.